Okay, so if you rent a home in England, you're going to want to pay attention because the entire rulebook is about to be completely rewritten. We're talking about a landmark new law, the Renters' Rights Act 2025, and it is going to affect a staggering number of people. So, just how many are we really talking about here? 11 million. Yeah, let that number sink in for a second. That's how many people are currently renting their homes from private landlords in England. This isn't some small niche group, it's a massive part of the population, and their lives are about to be directly shaped by these changes.
And you know, it's so important to get our heads around who this really is. We're not just talking about students or young professionals starting out. This is nearly a fifth of all households in the country. We're talking families, older folks, millions and millions of individuals. For every single one of them, the ground is literally about to shift beneath their feet.
And that brings us right to the heart of this new act. You see, for the last 3 decades, one single rule has pretty much defined the entire power balance between landlords and tenants. So, what happens when that rule is about to vanish completely?
Well, it all starts right here. This is the absolute headline change, the big one. The end of so-called no-fault evictions. They're getting rid of Section 21. And honestly, this is probably the biggest shakeup to renting in a generation.
This right here shows you the before and after in a nutshell. Under the old way, Section 21, a landlord could end your tenancy without giving you any reason at all. Just, you have to leave. Now with the new system, they must have a valid, legally defined reason. The entire power dynamic is being completely rebalanced.
So what are these new reasons? Well, landlords can absolutely still get their property back, but the grounds are now specific and they have to be proven. For instance, if they want to sell the place, or if they or a close family member needs to move in. Or, on the flip side, if a tenant is in serious rent arrears or is causing persistent trouble. The key thing to remember is there has to be a real valid reason.
Now, the other side of this coin is the end of fixed-term contracts. So instead of that scary cliff edge you face every 6 or 12 months, the new default is what's called a periodic tenancy. A good way to think of it is less like a rigid contract and more like a rolling subscription. It just keeps going until the tenant decides to give 2 months' notice to leave. It offers so much more stability. All right, so that's the eviction side of things. But this act goes way beyond that. Let's dig into the money, because it's also tackling the financial side of renting head-on.
Right. Rent increases. They're also getting a much more formal, predictable structure. From now on, they can only happen once a year. Landlords have to give you at least 2 months' notice, and crucially, if you feel an increase is just way above the market rates, you'll now have the power to formally challenge it in a tribunal.
Oh, and this is a huge one for anyone who's tried to find a place to live recently, especially in a competitive market. The whole practice of rental bidding wars is now banned. Landlords have to advertise one single price, and they can't encourage or hint that you should offer more to beat out other people. The whole idea is to just bring some fairness and transparency back to the process.
And another major barrier for a lot of renters is also being torn down. You know that thing where landlords ask for several months of rent up front just to secure a place? Well, they can't do that anymore. That practice often priced perfectly good tenants out of the market before they even had a chance, and now it's prohibited.
So this isn't just about the legal and financial stuff. The Act is also trying to make a rental property feel more like, an actual home. It does that by strengthening some really important personal rights. Okay, pet lovers, this one's for you. This is a massive lifestyle shift. For millions of renters, having a pet was just never an option. Now, you'll have a legal right to request one, and your landlord can't just say no without a really good, reasonable excuse. What was once a rare privilege is now becoming a protected right.
And this next one tackles a really serious issue head-on: discrimination. The law now makes it flat-out illegal for landlords or agents to have those blanket bans. No kids or no one on benefits. The whole point is to make sure people are judged on whether they can actually afford the rent, not on their personal circumstances.
Okay, so we've covered the rules of the tenancy and your rights. Now, let's talk about the actual bricks and mortar, the physical condition of the homes themselves.
For the very first time, the private rental sector is going to be held to a legal standard for property conditions. It's called the Decent Homes Standard. Now, this has existed for social housing for a while, but applying it here means there's now a clear, legally enforceable benchmark for what actually makes a home safe and decent to live in.
And baked into these new standards is something incredibly powerful and important: a Wobb's Law. It was named in absolutely tragic circumstances, and now it's being extended to put a new legal urgency on private landlords to fix serious health hazards like damp and mold.
So here's how it's going to work in practice. Let's say you report a serious hazard.
like severe damp. Your landlord is now legally required to investigate and start repairs within really strict time limits. And for the really bad emergency-level issues, they have to get it fixed within 24 hours. It creates a clear, actionable process where, frankly, one just didn't exist before.
So, with all of these massive changes, the big question on everyone's mind, whether you're a renter or a landlord, is, okay, when does all this stuff actually kick in? When does it become real?
Well, it's not all happening at once. It's a phased rollout. The big one to circle on your calendar is May 2026. That's when the end of Section 21 and all the new tenancy rules begin. A bit later that year, we'll see the start of a new national landlord database, and then in 2028, a new ombudsman service will launch to help handle disputes.
So let's just take a step back and look at the sheer scale of this again. We're talking about over 11 million renters and 2.3 million landlords. This isn't just some minor tweak to the system. This is a fundamental reset of one of the largest markets in the entire country, and it affects millions of people on both sides of that rental agreement.
So, if you only take away a few things from all of this, let it be these. First and foremost, no-fault evictions, they're gone. Second, tenancies are now secure, rolling contracts, which means more stability. Third, you've got stronger rights when it comes to things like pets and discrimination. And finally, both properties and landlords are going to be held to a much higher, legally enforceable standard.
And all of that leaves us with a big, unanswered question, doesn't it? This is a massive experiment in rebalancing the rental market. Will it actually create the fairer, more stable system that it promises? Or could these new responsibilities and restrictions cause some landlords to sell up, ultimately squeezing the supply of available homes? The Great Rental Reset is officially underway, and only time will tell how it all plays out.